Hi, I'm Megan.
And I'm Nicole.
And we're the creators of Adaptive Listening.
And today we're going to share with you the listening skills you never knew you needed at work. You know, when we ask people who their favorite communicator is, we usually get favorite speakers. They'll say someone like Satya Nadella from Microsoft or Michelle Obama. But the truth is, communication is a two-way street. It's not just about speaking, it's also about listening. So to be a great communicator, you can't only focus on your speaking skills, you also have to focus on your listening skills.
Now, we're not saying Satya and Michelle are not great listeners. We actually don't know what kind of listeners they are. But what we do know is that you are probably spending more than half of your day listening. And if you're a leader, you're probably spending more than half your day. But what you probably haven't had are memorable models and easy to implement techniques that you can use throughout your workday to make yourself a better listener.
So if you want to be a great communicator, you've got to work on those listening skills. And the best way to do that is with adaptive listening.
Good listening. You know, it's so funny because when people think about listening, they forget if there's another person there.
Yeah.
You know, listening is not done in isolation. It's not done in a box. It's not just me. If there's not another person with you, there's nothing to listen to. So listening is really centered and grounded in who's there. How can you be empathetic to them? How can you show up for them? Give that person what they need.
And a lot of people think that all that person needs is for you to pay attention. A lot of people think paying attention is synonymous with listening, but it's not. Good listening requires you to think about the other person in a way that helps them meet their goals. So you've got to develop your listening skills to ask yourself, what does this person need from me in this interaction?
And not a lot of people think about what are the goals the person has when they're speaking to me. So you want to become a better listener. You want to improve your listening skills. Start changing the way you're focusing at the start of an interaction to think, what does this other person want to get out of it? And how might I be able to help them?
Yeah, it's all about the other person. So adaptive listening is processing and responding to the person speaking to you in a way that helps them meet their goals. And it's funny because we work with a lot of senior leaders who come to us and they say, what do I say to my people to connect with them, to motivate them, to persuade them? And we help them do that, but we also ask a follow-up question. Are you listening to them? And after having a few conversations with these leaders, we realize they do not have a memorable model for listening in the workplace.
So we spent 3 years going on a listening tour. We talked to leaders and subject matter experts, individual contributors across industries to figure out who those rock star listeners are in their organizations, because we know people are getting it right a lot of the time. What are they doing? Well, we figured out people know how to adapt the way they listen. When you know a leader wants you to get something done, you change the way you focus in that interaction. When you know someone's having a hard time and they want to be there with you, they know how to change the way they listen and the way they respond. So it's the combination of what you're thinking going through your head, how you're responding, and how you can show up for that person the right way at the right time. We are big fans of active listening. Active listening was built in the therapeutic setting. So it was research about what are the best counselors and therapists doing for their clients or their patients. Certainly great things to learn, and that can be parted over to the workplace. But there's obviously differences between listening in a therapy setting and listening at work.
Yeah, so for example, active listening says, don't judge. Meg and I can tell you we have made careers out of judging people because we tell speakers what to say and how to say it on stage. They pay us for our evaluation. So in the workplace, evaluation, critique, finding red flags, poking holes is sometimes really necessary. Active listening also says, don't give advice. Well, 9 times out of 10, when we're talking to our CEO, she wants our opinion. So we can't show up listening and say, sorry, we're not going to provide our opinion in response today. So active listening and adaptive listening are different because adaptive listening takes into account your dynamic and hectic workday and situations that just don't apply to the therapeutic setting. You know, it's funny. Most of the listeners we spoke to, they all think they're really good listeners. And yet when we ask them, how do you feel about others listening to you? Woo, they had some stuff to say. They did not think that their leaders, peers, direct reports were listening to them. So we realized there's a mismatch here. We've got an organizational issue.
And the only way to change something at an organizational level is to enact common language, techniques, vocabulary, so you can say to someone, you are or are not listening to me the right way. Because right now, most people just equate listening and paying attention. But adults know you're supposed to pay attention when you go to work. So I don't want to solve a paying attention problem. People need listening skills, and that can really impact the entire company culture.
Yeah, and the issue is that people think that there's just good listening and bad listening. The fact is, people listen in different ways, and sometimes it's not good or bad. You just have to figure out, when am I supposed to listen to this person in this way under this context?
We've been lucky to work at an organization that had all of the employees trained in adaptive listening. So we're able to walk into our one-on-ones or leave a client meeting and assess, because we have a rubric to say, were we listening the right way or were we not? It's changed our day-to-day interactions, but it also just elevates the company culture at large.
It turns out we don't all listen the same way. Even if we're in the same room listening to the same speaker give us the same information, we all process and respond to information differently. So some people show up and they want to support the speaker. Some people show up and they want to advance and move things forward. Some people want to immerse and soak up all that content. And some people want to discern and critique or evaluate that content.
And it's not that you only ever listen one way. We all have the capacity to listen in all the ways. In fact, if you want to be an adaptive listener, you know how to listen in all the ways. But your listening style is the way you would prefer to listen if you could just listen the way that felt right for you. I'm an advanced listener, so I cannot help myself but thinking about next steps when I'm listening to someone. It's different for Nicole.
Yeah, I'm a discerned listener, and so all the information I get, all I want to do is evaluate it. What are the pros and cons, risks and rewards, what's working and what's not working? And then there are support listeners and immerse listeners as well.
So if you put them all in order of support, advance, immerse, discern, they take the first letter of them, they spell said, and that will make it easy for you to remember the 4 listening styles.
You know, when people enter interactions, they often ask themselves, what's in it for me? So if you're a listener listening to your CEO in an all-hands meeting, you might show up thinking, what is this person going to say that's going to impact me and my job? Or if you're talking to a customer, you might think, well, how should I listen so that I can advance the sale and close this deal? We're not saying those thoughts are bad or wrong. We're just saying that when you show up as a listener, you really need to flip the script. You need to ask yourself, what does this speaker want from me as a listener in this moment?
So imagine you were to walk into a one-on-one. Let's say you're a leader and you have a direct report, and you think to yourself, what does this direct report need out of this interaction? That's going to help your direct report think, this is the type of leader who's here for me. Flip it also. Let's say you're the direct report and you show up to interaction with a leader and you think, how might I listen to help my leader? Now, when it comes time for 360 evaluations or someone to say, do you like working with this person? You've just given yourself the option to be seen as someone who's great to work with, who gets me, who makes my job easier. That's the way listening skills can help you get promoted.
Well, I can tell you how I get my boss to be a good listener because she's sitting right next to me. Megan and I have an easier time because we have this shared language with adaptive listening. So she's trained to know the cues to pick up on when we have interactions. She knows when to give me what I need most of the time. But if for whatever reason she's missed a cue, I can say, Megan, I need some support listening right now. Or, Megan, I'm having issues bringing this project along. I need you to listen to advance to help me take the next steps. But you don't have to have the shared adaptive listening language to make this work.
So if you have a boss that you know you want to be a better listener for you, here's what you do. Be exceptionally clear about what you want out of that interaction. So you could walk into a one-on-one and maybe you know from past experience your boss usually tries to solve your problems. Or you know your boss has a critical ear and can't help but evaluating and judging everything you say. You could walk into that one-on-one and say, hey, today I'm going to need about 2 minutes. So would it be okay if I just vent about something that's going on and then we can move on to the other items on the agenda? It's all going to depend on your relationship with that supervisor, whether or not you can be that candid, but there's got to be some way that you can be clear about what you want. And in the end, they'll probably thank you for it. All any of us want to do is get it right. We want to show up for other people. So when you're clear, you give them a chance to show up for you the right way. What did I write in your performance review?
I don't remember.
I don't know. We'll figure it out later. Nicole is my direct report. So as a leader, I take it very seriously. My job is to understand what my employees are doing, what their preferences are, what their styles are. And that includes their listening styles. I know Nicole is a discerned listener, and her discerned listening brings value to our team, our company, to the entire world. We need her evaluation. I know, I like you. You do good work. But sometimes I don't need her to discern. And because I am her leader and I know what her professional development goals are, that she wants to continue to progress in her career, I'm always looking for ways that I can be direct and cue her on what might be a better way for her to listen in interaction. And then I tell her when we get started, I appreciate the discerning and evaluating you're doing now, but I need us to make a decision and I need us to move forward because we have a deadline to meet. And so if you can reinforce that gratefulness for what they bring, but also here's the thing I need from you next, it makes it easier for them.
You don't necessarily have to know adaptive listening language to do the same thing with your direct report. If you notice a pattern in how they listen and you want them to listen differently in that interaction, clearly tell them, I don't need you to do this time, although I really value you when you do that thing. This time I need you to do this. And it just makes it a lot clearer and gives them guidance for exactly how they need to show up in that moment.
Improving your listening skills at work is going to take time. You have spent your entire life developing listening habits and listening preferences. Some of those have served you. Some of those might not have served the people that you're listening to at work. So while we would love for you to learn all of the techniques and tactics in adaptive listening, there's some quick wins you could get. You could get it in your very next interaction. If you asked yourself one question before you started listening, what does the speaker need from me?
When you ask that question, you are setting yourself up to be an empathetic listener for the person speaking. And it doesn't matter who that person is. They could be your leader, direct report, a colleague, or a customer. When you ask yourself the question, what does this speaker need from me? You are showing up for them in that moment.
It's completely reasonable that we are thinking of ourselves at work. I have projects, I have objectives, I have career goals I'm trying to accomplish. But if you walk into that next interaction and you think, what does the speaker need from me? You're going to reframe, and it's going to make it better and easier for you to listen. And people are going to start to notice. And that means your entire workday is probably going to run smoother, and people are going to start seeking you out for the right reasons. You're not going to be able to stop listening at work. You're going to have to listen for the rest of your career. So why not use adaptive listening? It gives you easy, memorable models that you can use in your very next interaction.
In fact, you can try that right now. Go onto your calendar and find a meeting that you're going to attend today as a listener and ask yourself before you walk in, what does this speaker need from me? And afterwards, you can assess your listening skills. How did I do? Did I meet that speaker's needs? With adaptive listening, you have the power to cultivate trust and traction in the workplace.